I saw 4 bucks.
Oh, where'd you end up going?
I ended up going to the north end, and another buck that came out, and I looked 10 to 6, and he started looking right away, and I was there another one over there? I looked, and sure enough, there was another buck there. So they were both fork horns.
Oh.
And so kind of watching them for a bit, and then all of a sudden, and they're right by the road, right by the Warden's Road, and
Yeah.
feeding. And then all of a sudden he comes right up to again, just where that doe was, 15 feet away, and he's looking at me, and he's looking, and I thought, okay. And then but I see another deer behind him, and I'm thinking, maybe it's that 8 that came back out again, because he went back into the bird seed.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it lifts up his head and it goes, oh, that's a shooter, that's a shooter, that's a shooter. And he's only 25 yards maybe. But the other one is like,
looking at you?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it walks back to where the big one was. And the big one's broadside. And that little 6-pointer goes up and
Blocks the shot.
broadside. And it's like, okay. I hope they don't diddly-dally, go like this and walk through.
Right.
And so finally he left, the little buck left. And there he is, and now he's looking around, and he has no clue I'm there. So I'm all ready. And he's walking kind of towards me a little bit. He's looking, he's really got a nice rack. And so I'm watching him, and he's walking, and then he stops, and then he turns broadside, and I drew, and then he lifts his head up, and he starts walking. I go, ah. He kept walking, ah. He stops. I think it's right about there. Whack! Takes off. The other 6-pointer took off, or fork horn took off with him. And I didn't hear anything. It didn't sound like it was a, I don't know. It didn't sound like it was like a good solid hit for some reason. But then it did sound like a good meat hit,
Yeah.
Last time you said that, you
Yeah.
shot him right in the throat. He was dead, like right there.
It's pretty much the same situation. I couldn't see my pins and I couldn't find them.
So he took off. He went into the field, or I should say he ran to the belt line. And that's only about 50 yards or so, maybe 75 yards from me. I didn't hear him go down. I didn't hear him, he could have hit blood, and then I said, okay, here's some blood. And then I found blood, and so the arrow's still in him. So, don't know.
Did you find it on 2 sides or just one?
Well, from what my light could pick up, it looked like there was a drop and then a drop on the other side. Which I got up and it's like, I think it's right about there. And we'll see.
I'm going to say you have a pretty good track record with that kind of a shot.
Yeah.
So.
And then leaving them go.
Yeah, not going and chasing
Yeah.
after them is a good thing.
It's going to be cold tonight. I mean, it's already down to 25.
Yeah.
Lasser, how about you?
I saw 2 nice bucks. One of them 100 yards out, where I'm right at the tip of that. And out in the field to the east, one buck was just, I saw him moving, and all of a sudden he's running all the way down that nice one.
Yeah. I mean, because we hit water early.
Yeah, we weren't even 15 yards in, and we hit water, and I'm like, yeah, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
We walked through that whole swamp in the cattails, and then
So your normal trail you were walking on?
No,
Or
no,
like
it
that?
was all flooded.
we blazed our own trail. It sucked.
And then Cullen's like, we're never going to find our way out of here in the dark. And he's right, we're not. But we're already 3/4 of the way.
Yep.
So let's just go out there, and I just thought we'd find a place to hunt and then I would just try and find our way out while he's making a blind. So that's what we did. So we got in. We got in there. It looked really good, and it just was anything. I mean,
Thousands of geese.
the geese, the snow geese are in, and there was a couple of golden eagles that kept landing. And then it was at 6:25, I think. I saw a buck come out of, it was only like 40 yards from us.
Yeah.
It was a nice buck, but it was headed to the northwest. So it was kind of headed away from us. That was it.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
How long you been out here looking?
3 hours. God. Oh yeah. It is. Center mass. He's got a broken tine. Look how tight he is. He is tight. He was dead last night. Oh, for sure.
You know what you need to do, John?
Pissed himself.
You need to do what I did and throw those broadheads in the trash.
Feel how thick that coat is.
There's no reason to have no blood with that shot.
Well, I guess it kind of depends on how much fat's in him.
You think he's plugged up?
Look at his ear.
Yeah, his ear's ripped off.
Broken tire. Oh. And then it's got a nice sweep to it.
Oh yeah.
I think this is the coolest thing. This is the deer. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Boy, he is tight.
And so I'm watching him, and he's walking, and then he stops, and then he turns broadside, and I drew, and then he lifts his head up, and it's like I'm not going to see, so I'm just both eyes open, and he starts walking. I go, eh. He kept walking, eh. He stops. I think it's right about there. Whack! Takes off. The other 6-pointer took off, or 4-pointer took off.
We still have time for another deer. We hunted here last night about 50 yards to the south, and we had one buck come out last night. Came out right in front of us here, so that's why we moved up here. There's a huge trail out there. We rattled and grunted. And I said, Dad, buck coming. I grabbed my bow, and he's working literally right in front of where we were set up yesterday. I mean, it would have been a 12-yard shot if we were in our other blind. And he gets right to about 40 yards, and he holds up, and he's sniffing around. And I reach down, grab my rangefinder, and range him, thinking that because he doesn't see a deer, he's going to turn and just walk away. You know, there's no fight here for him. So I range him, there's no shot, and all of a sudden he works his way towards this tree here, and right on the side of that tree there's a trail that heads straight west. And I'm sitting there thinking, if he heads straight west, this trail comes at 10 yards to my right, and I would have never been able to pull back if he's looking right at us walking down that trail. So I'm sitting there, please don't go down that trail, please don't go down that trail. For whatever reason, he did a 180, went back out to about 45, 50 yards, and then just starts heading north, right in front of us. He's not on our trail. He's about 20 yards to the east of the trail, in the grass. He stayed in cover. So, and I know I wasn't going to have a shot. So I grabbed my rangefinder again, knowing he's going to pop out here in this clearing. You know, if he starts heading east, I got to get a range on him and try to get a shot, because, I mean, he'll be gone. But he starts heading towards us. Comes through, starts heading towards us, right into our shooting lane. So I know it's going to be a 30-yard shot, so I dropped the rangefinder. But multiple times throughout that ordeal, I was ranging him, adjusting my sight, setting it down. And anyways, he gets into the clearing. I pull back full draw, and I stop him. And for whatever reason, as he stops, he turns to a harsh quartering to shot. So I got to just sit there and wait. Now I'm afraid that when he starts going again and I try to stop him, he's not going to stop. And he does. He takes some steps, turns broadside. I grunt at him. He doesn't stop. I grunt louder, and he stops. And I go to settle my pin in, and at about 15 yards there's cattails. And the cattails were tall enough to cover his vitals, but I knew my arrow would go over the cattails and drop in where he was at. So I just aimed at the cattails where I thought his heart was, and pulled back and let her rip. Tater chip. And he instantly took off. Sounded like a good shot, looked like a good shot, and he made it. I mean, the Fragmighty straight out in front of us that he was working at 50 yards, he made it into that, and it sounded like he crashed right in that grass. So I'm hopeful. I think he's laying right over there, so we'll go check it out. Look at that shot. Nice shot.
This is the biggest deer I've ever shot. So I got out to the blind, and I hadn't sat there yet, and John said it was a good spot, and he's always seeing deer out there, and knowing John, when he says something like that, it's a pretty good indication of good things to come. And I was sitting there and I checked my phone, and it's almost 8 o'clock, and or almost 7:50, which is shoot time, and I just happened to look up and down the field a little ways, and I saw the back of this guy here, and he's just head down, and I couldn't tell what it was right away, but I was like, that wasn't there before. I know it wasn't. So I grabbed my binos and I'm watching him. He had his head down for what seemed like, 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. It was a long time for me, and as soon as he popped up, it's like, oh, that's definitely something I'm gonna shoot today. And he stayed out there about 100 yards away, and I was like, how do I bring him in? I don't know how far it is. There's a bunch of... I'll grunt at him. So I grunted twice, and I stopped him, and he just looked down towards me, didn't do anything else, just looked, and then kind of disappeared in the grass. I was like, well, that sucks. I don't know how far away it was, and I mean, he had slowly worked from that 100-yard mark. I bet he was within 50 yards or so. Doe bleat. So I switched it on my call. I just did a couple of those, and all of a sudden I just hear brr, brr, brr. I was like, oh, he's still out there. He's close. He just went into the tall grass. I mean, didn't run or anything like that. And he popped back out, and he was at that same spot, so it was probably like 50 or so yards away. And I mean, he might be there still. So I grabbed my little estrus can call, and I hit that twice, and he started grunting again. Just brr, brr. I was like, oh my God, he's right there. And he literally had worked his way within 20 yards in the grass. I couldn't hear him at all. And he came out in front of me, and now he's like slowly working to 15 and then 10. And I'm at full draw in the blind, and he squares off to me chest first. And I was like, you son of a gun. And I started thinking, I was like, I could aim right there, and I know you're not supposed to take that shot, but at 10 yards, I mean, that arrow probably would have done the job right there. And he just stared at me for what seemed like forever. I was at full draw for probably a minute and a half. I settled in right behind the shoulder, and I set low, so I wanted to hit. If he wanted to lunge to go or anything, I wanted it to hit the pie plate there, and I let it fly, and I heard that sound. You just hear, it's like, oh, he's not going anywhere. And I started kind of like freaking out a little bit. The adrenaline hit, and I'm sitting there shaking, and I was like, oh, Muller's gonna want a video of this. And I was like, I forgot my Tacticam, but I got my camera here, so I pulled my camera up, and I got him kind of just standing like 25-30 yards down, and his tail flickers, and then he did the death fall where he just fall over and his legs kicked up in the air. I was like, oh my God, that just happened before 8 o'clock, and I couldn't be happier. This is one of my best bucks by far. And more than...
We got 2 days left in our hunt, but the forecast is going to turn to crap sometime this afternoon. It's not so bad this morning, but there's forecasts for rain today at noon or before noon, and then tomorrow, I don't know, there's weather advisories tomorrow. The only problem with it is we can't hunt it unless we have a north-west wind. So we've stayed away from it all week. We've come and checked on it. There's a lot of deer sign here.
We came in here yesterday because the forecast, there wasn't going to be any northwest winds until tomorrow, and who knows, it's going to be 100-mile-an-hour winds. So we thought if we could maybe find a spot to set up in this very small, narrow tree belt on the north side of it, maybe we could hunt it on a south wind like we have today. So that's what we did. We came in here yesterday afternoon, made this blind out of a deadfall, and try to make the best of it.
There he comes. He's turned around. He's coming in. He's coming in. Cut into the trees.
So we got in here early this morning, I don't know, maybe a half hour before legal shooting. Got in here real quiet, came through the field and got set up in here. And I think around 7:15, Cullen looked to the south and he saw a buck kind of heading to the west, away from us. And it got maybe, I don't know, 100 yards away, and I did a couple of sequences of grunting, and then he went into the tree belt that we're sitting in west of us quite a ways, and then came down on the north side of the tree belt, and we saw him coming down the fence line. And again, this day in the game, it looked like something we're not going to pass up at this point in the hunt if we get the opportunity to shoot it. So It came down the fence line right on our north side of our blind, which we have not the greatest cover, but we kind of anticipated that as they came down that fence line. If they came from the west, we got some trees here that are going to give us some cover. I can get pulled back, and he came into our shooting lane, gave me about a 10-yard shot, and I let the arrow go, and he went 80 yards, and he's laying out there right now. So we're pretty happy about that, to have that deer down and not have to track it. Maybe 5 minutes after I had made the shot, I turned around to my south, really to grab my other camera, and we had a buck that we had been watching here. I don't know, is he an 8 or a 10? I can't even remember. 10. Really nice buck. He was 20 yards away from us, so I mean, nothing you can do about it. We had already made the decision, or I made the decision to shoot this one, and based on what we've seen on the trip, we weren't going to see any more deer. So I think Cullen got some good video of that buck, so you get to see the video of him, and he'll live another day. Yeah, this whole corner.
Really? I've always wanted to pheasant hunt this.
No, stay out of it.
Well, you should have told me.
But the forecast is going to turn to crap sometime this afternoon. The forecast is going to turn to crap sometime this afternoon. Sometime this afternoon. Sometime this afternoon. Again, Bill.
You bet.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
See you next year. Yeah.
Thanks.
I always just schedule you guys the first 2 weeks of November.
All right.
Awesome.
Excellent.
It's my favorite time of year.
Good. Ours too.
Yeah.
We love coming out here.
Yeah.
See ya.
I don't mind if I throw you a text once in a while.
Absolutely.
No,
Do it. Yeah. Love to hear from you.
Okay.
See you, Bill.